Does that mean you can impede a law enforcement officer?
No, but that wasn't the case on January 6th either, and they were pardoned. And just this week, they're marching down the street to the Capitol down. Why are you shaking your head?
Because this cannot be your go-to.
But no, I'm not saying that.
On January 6th.
Wait a minute. That is a bit of our go-to. Like, I mean, Ana Navarro actually made more sense about the oversight. But what is this lady saying? So this clip, we're going to watch Scott Jennings get dismantled by Ana Navarro and, you know, Abby Phillips and everybody else in the on the table. But we do have to stop doing the January 6th. Like, what is happening here? Like, this is just a bit much. So, but, you know, with everything going on in Minnesota, you know, unfortunately, the lady who was shot in the face, you know, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I feel like, to be honest, that the public is kind of mixed on this, even though we have seen like huge protests. So we're going to go ahead and get into this clip and pretty much go from there and see what happens.
I am pro law enforcement.
Democrats said we're pro law enforcement. Today they say they're Gestapo. Which is it? Which is it?
Andrew McCarthy, a conservative lawyer who writes for the National Review, wrote of that, quote, "That is the kind of hyperbole we don't need from an agency that exists because of terrorism. It was established due to the 9/11 atrocities and should presumably know what it is and is not. Whether we conclude it's an attempted murder or an attempted escape, it is not a terrorist act."
Yes, it is.
Scott, I should note, McCarthy also wrote that he thinks that what happened was probably within the scope of the law, but he didn't like what Kristi Noem went out and said there. Did she need to say that?
Probably not. But that doesn't mean she shouldn't go out and defend the ICE agent. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't expect DHS to defend their agents who are routinely under attack around the country. We've seen hundreds of car incidents and ICE operations around the country. The correct question to be asking, I think, today is, why was this incident occurring in the first place? Why is there a convoy of vehicles, according to several witnesses, attempting to impede a perfectly legitimate federal law enforcement situation? So I think arguing about the rhetoric, perfectly fine. To me, I want to get to the root cause of why there is a group of people in this country who believe it is their responsibility to drive convoys of vehicles into perfectly legitimate federal law enforcement situations. I think some of this goes back to, frankly, John, Democratic rhetoric, because that's what they've been instructed to do by the Democrats who are demonizing these ICE agents.
By definition.
Okay, so Kristi Noem did use that term, definitely did use that term, domestic terrorist. We need to be careful with that term because you know what kills me? So for those who may not know, I am I don't want to say ex-MAGA because really the term is making America great again, and I still want to do that. I don't know. I live here. That might be kind of important to do. Let's make America great again. Although now I don't even know what's going on with this country. I really don't. I'm going to get back to ICE. But that term, domestic terrorist, it really does kind of kill me that MAGA, we'll say MAGA now to talk about like Trump's base, like his hardcore base that doesn't question a single thing. They didn't like when Joe Biden called them domestic terrorists. I really feel weird about using that word because unfortunately that word has gotten a lot of people in trouble that shouldn't have gotten in trouble. We could go all the way back to, you know, after the Patriot Act was established, Muslims they were getting arrested for just simply saying the word jihad. So, you know, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Like it's crazy, and I think that they're still doing it now. So I'm very weary about the word terrorists. I won't use it for the so-called left or the right. With that said, so when you hear what is she, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, right? That doesn't just mean border control. That means that, like, safety for the homeland, right? And I'm totally fine with the homeland being safe, except for they think things like words aren't safe, okay? You know, we got anti-Semitic laws and everything that have come out, you know, all kinds of stuff. So I'm not really cheering on Kristi Noem using that word. By the way, guys, if you do like this clip, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you to everybody who is watching these videos. Well, this first video I'm putting out, this is going to basically be a CNN Abby Phillip kind of channel. So thank you for coming through. Now, with that said, okay, let's play a little bit more, and then I'll get into my main question.
Some details we don't know yet, and we'll have to learn more about it. What strikes me is, first of all, it's extremely sad and unfortunate that someone died. I mean, the political fighting and disagreements aside, it's terrible. You don't want people to die in law enforcement situations or otherwise. But it strikes me that we are undergoing an epidemic of political vigilantism right now. Why are people showing up in vehicles, in convoys, not just in Minneapolis, but all over the country in an effort to obstruct lawful federal law enforcement activities? This is not an isolated incident. We have had hundreds of car rammings against ICE agents all over the country. According to DHS, this lady in this car today, along with other vehicles, have been tracking ICE agents around. Why are people believing that they can drive their car into a federal law enforcement situation and that is an appropriate thing to do? I understand they don't like the fact that these agents are enforcing existing immigration law, but that's not how we change laws in this country. If you don't like a law, you talk to the politicians. You don't drive your car into the middle of a building or a law enforcement situation that's being occupied by the people who are simply there to enforce the law. If I don't like how much the IRS is charging me in taxes, I don't drive my car into the Treasury Department and try to run somebody over. I call my congressman. Political vigilantism is being encouraged by Democratic officials like the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan, who earlier this year told people to, quote, put your bodies on the line, and Tim Walz calling these guys Gestapo all year. What do you think happens when you radicalize a base of people about this? Does that mean you can impede a law enforcement officer?
No, but that wasn't the case on January 6th either, and they were pardoned. And just this week, they were marching down the street to the Capitol down. Why are you shaking your head?
Because this cannot be your go-to.
But no, I'm not saying that.
On January 6th,
I am pro law enforcement.
Democrats said we're pro law enforcement. Today they say they're Gestapo. Which is it? Which is it?
No, I will say the vast majority of Democrats are pro law enforcement, and we believe that law enforcement.
He says they're Gestapo.
Let me finish.
He says they're Gestapo.
Scott,
do you agree?
Scott, let me finish. I do not agree. Let me finish. Many Democrats, and the vast majority of them, are pro law enforcement. They believe that law enforcement should actually get the training that they deserve and they need. Hold on, I'm not done. Hold on. Yes, I know. Let me tell you.
Stop implying that he's not trained.
In Minnesota,
he was dragged by a car last summer.
They
called them the Gestapo, Sochi.
They're pro law
They called them murderers. They called them Nazis.
Why is it one rule for ICE? And why is it another rule for the Capitol Police or the Republican Party? Can you answer that question?
I have the same rule for all law enforcement. I think we should respect all law enforcement. You all have select one day a year. One day a year you like the cops. The other 364 days you call them the Gestapo. That's the Democratic position.
That is not the Democratic position.
So, okay. Like I said, we like, sis, please. These are not the arguments that we should be having, okay? I'm sorry. Like, I don't do the whataboutism. I'm sorry. The whole thing about, oh, January 6th, it's like, bro, we really do need to stop going there. Like, let it go. Because what you really should be saying is, who is ICE, right? Okay, so we're hearing ICE is in these places, right? I will give Scott this much. At least he said that it's a shame that the girl died. Because I'm seeing a lot of hoorahing online, and I'm just like, I just feel like, like, what is ICE? And people are hoorahing about the girl getting dropped, but people aren't asking what's ICE. The same people hoorahing, right? These are the people who want mass deportations, okay? Be clear. I am not one who has a problem with deporting people who are here legally. This is how it used to be done back in the day. If you're here illegally, you gotta go. All right. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm not into that. I am into it. I'm not seeing it. What I see is federal agents running around in the cities, running around, getting caught up, somehow people figure out where they are. I don't know the mechanisms to all of this, and then the situations get agitated. If I could see a one-to-one video of agitation to, actual job getting done. And then when you look at ICE, and people are showing stuff online on the internet about ICE basically having their field office in Tel Aviv. It's a little weird to me, guys. Like, I'm just saying. So, All I see is this agency that is supposed to, that works for the federal government, and their mission pretty much is to, you know, ensure homeland security safety, right? That sounds good, right? But then again, we go back to this word Terry's. I'm not going to say the word again. You know what I'm talking about. So a person who is talking about certain subjects, certain nations outside of here, that could be looked at as a homeland security issue. What is ICE? Are they here to get that person? You know what I mean? Because, again, I don't know what's going on. I don't see the footage of the work getting done, guys. I don't. And people are looking into this agency, and they're coming up with some weird stuff. This does not mean people need to get shot or cars need to be driven on people, right? It's not what I'm promoting. I'm just saying we need to, even with the marches. I mean, shout out to people who want to go out and march and protest. Please be safe. But can all of that energy, if they really did some digging to find out what is this agency, well, can we get some answers? Because I really don't think that they're here for the American citizen as far as to help the American citizen. And I'm starting to feel like they're here, well, you know what I mean. Let me know what you think about this clip, though. And if you have those same kind of questions, I'll see you guys at the next one.